In a small town at the foot of the mountains lived a gardener named William. He was already in his 70s, but his hands remained strong and his eyes sharp. William had devoted his entire life to his garden, which spread across a hillside and was renowned throughout the region. In spring, apple and pear trees blossomed fragrantly here, in summer apricots and plums filled with juice, and in autumn the branches bent under the weight of ripe fruit. William didn't just grow trees, he talked to them, knew the character of each one, understood their needs. Neighbors often asked him for advice, and the old man never refused anyone. However, William had one secret that he shared with no one. In the very depths of the garden, behind an old stone fence, grew a special sapling. This was a young tree of unknown species that the gardener had found many years ago in the mountains and carefully transplanted into his garden. William cared for this little tree with particular diligence. He watered it with pure spring water, fertilized it with the best compost, protected it from wind and frost. But the tree grew slowly, and in 10 years had only reached about 6 feet tall. It had never bloomed and hadn't produced a single fruit. Neighbors who happened to see it laughed at the old man. Why waste effort on a barren tree? But William only smiled and continued his work. One day, a young man named Ethan came to town. He had just graduated from university and received his agronomy degree. Ethan was full of ambition and modern knowledge. Having heard about William's famous garden, he decided to visit the old man to learn from his experience. William greeted his guest warmly, led him through the garden, showed him his domain. Ethan admired the well-maintained trees and abundant harvest. But when they reached the far corner, and the young man saw that particular tree, his face twisted with surprise. "Mister." "William," he exclaimed, "why are you wasting time on this sickly plant? According to all the rules of modern agronomy, a tree that hasn't borne fruit for 10 years should be uprooted. It's taking nutrients away from healthy trees, taking up space. In its place, you could plant 3 productive saplings." The old man listened carefully to the young specialist and quietly replied, "Perhaps you're right, but I'm not rushing to conclusions." Ethan decided that the old man was simply stubborn and didn't understand progress. He visited William several more times, each time convincing him to get rid of the useless tree. Finally, the old man said wearily, "All right, let's make a deal. I'll give this tree 1 more year. If in a year it doesn't bear fruit, I'll uproot it, and in its place you can plant whatever you think is necessary. Agreed?" Ethan was delighted and agreed. He was confident in being right. Winter passed, spring arrived. William, as usual, tended to his garden, but began visiting that particular tree even more often. He would stand beside it for long periods, whispering something, as if talking to it. Ethan, passing by, just shook his head. The old man was clearly losing his mind. But in early summer, a miracle occurred. One morning, William approached his tree and froze. Flowers had bloomed on its branches. They were extraordinarily beautiful, large, with delicate petals shimmering in all shades of pink and gold. The fragrance was so strong that the entire garden filled with the scent. When Ethan learned about this, he couldn't believe his eyes. And by the end of summer, fruit appeared on the tree, large, amber-colored, resembling both a peach and a pear simultaneously. When the fruits ripened, William picked one and cut it open. The flesh was juicy, sweet, with an amazing taste that couldn't be compared to anything known. Ethan tasted the fruit and was amazed. "Mr. William," he muttered, "I've never encountered anything like this. This is a real treasure. How did you know?" The old man chuckled. "I didn't know. I simply knew I had to wait. You see, Ethan, when I found this sapling in the mountains, an old tree was growing next to it. It was enormous, mighty, covered with fruit. I understood that this tree was special, but for such a tree to grow requires time. A lot of time. You can't rush it. I knew I'd have to wait. Maybe 10 years, maybe 20. But I believed." "But how could you be sure?" asked the young man. "I wasn't 100% certain," William answered. "But I saw signs. This tree's roots went deep into the earth, deeper than any other. The trunk was strong, the wood dense. The leaves had a special shape. All of this told me, this tree is preparing for something important. It's gathering strength, and I decided to give it that time." Ethan fell silent in thought. He remembered how he had rushed to apply all his knowledge, how he had wanted quick results, how he had been certain he knew better. And the old man had simply observed, endured, and believed. "You know, Ethan," William continued, "in life, much is like growing trees. There are things that give quick results, and that's good. But there are also those that require patience. A child doesn't become wise in a year. Mastery doesn't come in a month. True friendship isn't formed in a day. Everything most valuable requires time." "I understand," the young man said quietly. "I was too self-confident. I thought book knowledge was everything, but I didn't account for experience, intuition, patience. Knowledge is wonderful," the old man smiled. "You won't get far without it, but wisdom is knowledge plus experience, plus understanding that not everything can be measured and calculated. Sometimes you simply need to believe and wait." From that day on, Ethan became William's true apprentice. He came to the garden every day, helped the old man, observed, asked questions. William willingly shared his knowledge, but the main thing he taught the young man was patience and respect for nature, for time, for the natural course of things. Several years passed. William aged even more, and one day he called Ethan and said, "I'm leaving you this garden. Take care of it. Cherish every tree. And remember, that special tree now bears fruit every year. From its seeds you can grow new trees, but it will require the same patience it required from me. Promise me, you won't rush." Ethan promised. And when the old gardener passed away, he truly became the guardian of the garden. He planted seeds from that amazing tree, and although they germinated slowly, he waited patiently. 10 years later, a second such tree bloomed in the garden, then a third. The fame of the garden and its unusual fruits spread far beyond the town. People came from afar to see these marvelous trees. Ethan shared saplings, but always warned, "You'll have to wait a long time. If you don't have patience, better not to start." Some didn't listen, rushed, abandoned the saplings without waiting for results. But those who believed and endured received their reward years later, trees that produced incomparable fruit and decorated gardens with their beauty. And Ethan remembered old William's lesson until the end of his days. He passed this wisdom to his children, and they to theirs. And in that town at the foot of the mountains, a simple truth was passed down from generation to generation. Everything most valuable in life requires time, patience, and faith. You can't hurry the dawn. You can't force a tree to grow faster. You can't accelerate the maturing of the soul. You simply need to do your work day after day, believe, and wait. And then the time of harvest will surely come.